Hello, my name is Gabiann Marin, the writer of Quoth the Raven, a short story that is appearing in the Clan Destine anthology, Clamour and Mischief. I hope you enjoyed this excerpt. I'm so pleased you agreed to my proposal of patronage, Miss Frances twittered. I have always wanted my very own poet, and those other writers I asked were not very courteous at all. Mr. Longfellow refused outright. Mr. Hawthorne did not even answer my letters. My friend Harriet says he has no need of a patron, but really, Mr. Poe, I ask you, when is a writer not in need of money? She gave him a knowing look, taking in his faded black suit and frayed white-collared shirt, which he tugged at self-consciously. Now, please, do read for me your latest wondrous piece of work, Miss Frances enthused. I am simply dying to hear it. Edgar smiled nervously and pulled the parchments from his satchel. His spidering handwriting was inked across the pages, copied and corrected so many times that his hands had cramped up painfully while writing it, but he was sure the outcome was worth it. It is still a work in progress, but I feel it is an exceptional start, Edgar began, his voice squeaking slightly in his nervousness. This was a lie, as the poem was, in all ways that mattered, complete. Its initial draft had flowed, almost intact, onto the page as though it was one complete thought from his subconscious mind. Despite its ease of passage, Edgar suspected this poem was one of the best things he had ever written, and so could not resist using it to ensure the coveted patronage he so desperately needed. He cleared his throat. It is titled The Raven. Miss Frances shuffled lightly in her seat and gave him a weak smile, which was not the response he had hoped for, but it was, after all, just the title. No doubt she'd be more pleased with the poetic magic he had woven into the verses themselves. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary. Oh dear, Miss Frances interrupted. What's wrong? Miss Frances grimaced. Is that how you intend to start it? Yes, Edgar frowned. You don't like the opening line? It's a bit depressing, isn't it? What? The poem. It's a bit depressing. Couldn't you start with something a bit nicer, a bit more positive, like people meeting and falling in love? I do enjoy a love story. This is a love story, Edgar countered. Miss Frances considered this. Doesn't sound like a love story. Well, it's about a lost love. A woman dead and gone, whom the speaker is mourning. Miss Frances pursed her lips. Proper love stories aren't about dead women, though, are they? All the love poems I read are about men pursuing their dearest sweethearts, then making declarations of undying devotions to them during passionate embraces. And what could be more undying than loving someone who has already passed? Edgar argued, but his heart was sinking. Well, maybe, she relented. But could you not change the beginning? Just slightly? Edgar bit his tongue. He needed this patronage. Change it in what way? He asked, an edge of coldness entering his tone. Well, maybe, instead of it being a midnight dreary, it could be warm and cheery.